Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 199, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. That's not a single 99, but 199. I am your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And Dracologist. Good evening, everyone.
So, this week, I really wanted to do another of our manga property deep dives. We did one for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure a couple weeks back. I wanted to do a second deep dive into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but Lotus Prince gave me a strong talking to.
Yeah, I have had it up to here with JoJo.
Jolene.
Jolene's like one of the best characters.
I know. But I really wanted to kind of go into an even more foundational anime and manga property, one that absolutely influenced JoJo itself, which is Fist of the North Star, or Hokuto no Ken.
Yes.
So, like before, I kind of want to do a review of how we were introduced to the property, kind of how we came about it in our Western lives, and how we were exposed to it, and kind of move from there, but I'll do a quick overview of what Hokuto no Ken, or Fist of the North Star, is all about. So, the premise is pretty darn simple, but
It's Kung Fu Mad Max.
Yes, it is Mad Max mixed with Bruce Lee.
And by Kung Fu you mean touching people, punching people so hard that they explode. Not even like
literally.
Not in the way you would think explode, like you punch someone and they disintegrate from the force of the
No,
punch.
it's like they explode internally outward.
He
hits what pressure points, which we apparently have a million of. Thank God nobody ever accidentally made somebody explode in a brawl.
Yeah, so essentially you have this main character named Ken, which also means fist
Or sword.
In Japanese, or sword. It can mean several different things, or it can be somebody's name.
Kenshiro.
Yeah, exactly.
It
is kind of a pun in itself that his name is Ken, but he is basically the prototype for a lot of other action heroes in manga after that.
He is the big silent guy who beats everyone.
Yeah,
Yep.
really muscly, and his appearance is very iconic to the point where it informs other manga poses after that. Like JoJo from Series 1 certainly looks like
He was
Kenshiro.
drawn to look very much like Kenshiro. It got to a point where it's like, how did he get away with this?
Yeah, exactly. And Road Warrior was a big thing at the time, like in the 80s. It was a worldwide phenomenon, much more so than its original title. Like the Mad Max, the first Mad Max movie was never nearly as popular as Mad Max 2 Road Warrior. In fact, in the United States, the first movie had such a limited release that they didn't even try to connect it. They
didn't call it Mad Max 2. Like, we found that out later after somebody did some research.
Well, it was one of those deals where, like, after that started getting popular, like, somebody dug up the original Mad Max and, started putting it all over, cable and things like that. So people did know about it. Like, when I was a kid, and we saw Road Warrior on the TV. Me and my dad always used to kind of like watch it when it came on because Road Warrior is like awesome. It was such a good movie.
I don't think I ever caught it on TV at the time.
We used to catch it on TV from time to time, and the third movie too.
I saw a little piece of the third movie on TV. Like, at this point, I've seen all three movies, but
Sure.
like, I think I might have caught like a clip of 3 at the time, and I never saw Road Warrior on TV, and it's too bad because that's a great movie.
Yeah, and the third movie actually has some really notable lines that people still quote. So like two men enter, one man leave is a big thing.
Yeah, from Thunderdome.
Yeah,
it's funny because like a lot of people were like, why didn't they have more? The Thunderdome was the best part of the movie, and like the movie's called Beyond Thunderdome. Like he gets through that shit real quick.
Yeah, in fact, everything after that is not so great. The movie really kind of falls apart. Yeah. Unfortunately, the third movie is probably the weakest, even compared to the first movie, if you ask me, because the first movie is definitely like a revenge flick. That has some cool aspects to it. It was like probably the first movie I'd seen where they make that gambit, like you got a saw through your arm or you explode.
It's the Saw movie way before Saw, and even Watchmen did it before the Saw movie. Rorschach did that to a guy, but in the movie,
I think Mad Max was the first thing to ever do it.
Yeah, but like in the Watchmen movie, they didn't do the Saw thing. They just had him kill the guy with a cleaver or something because they were like, everyone's going to compare it to Saw. Let's just not even fucking do that.
Yeah, and it's all a ripoff of one thing before that, and is Mad Max. But
what's cool about Mad Max, by the way, is that they left what happened to that guy ambiguous, although he probably died.
No, he explodes when he also tells him you probably don't have enough time to do this, so don't I'm giving you a chance, but it's not a chance.
Okay.
It's kind of reminds me there was a fantasy movie called Hulk the Slayer. If anyone of you know that.
Oh yeah, it's Hokuto no Fantasy. That movie is straight up Fist of the North Star, except like swords and sorcery.
Is it?
Yeah,
I didn't notice, but like there is a
watch the movie again. It's like pretty close.
There is like a moment where they catch this bandit guy who had this giant mace, and like they basically tie him up and tie his giant mace to a tree branch and hang it over his head and put the rope end into his mouth.
But yeah, like the basic premise, because I mean, we are going to talk about Fist of the North Star in his Fist of the North Star episode, but like with Hawk the Slayer, it's the same thing. The bad guy captures the main protagonist's girlfriend, and the guy just meets new characters on the way to get revenge and fight the bad guy. Like, I'm not saying it's like a remake of Hokuto, but like it follows a bunch of the beats. Like, it probably is coincidence, but it's closer than you might think.
I completely wouldn't have thought that this would be an analogy of the two, but hey.
Yeah, well done, Dracologist, because I completely forgot about that movie.
I fucking love that movie. Like,
and the entire final fight is in slow motion. I was dying.
I should move on to the actual story of the manga. So the reason why we're mentioning Mad Max so much is the setting of Hokuto no Ken or Fist of the North Star is completely based off of Mad Max. Like, it is a post-apocalyptic scenario. It is not based on the oil wars that Mad Max was based off of, but instead nuclear wars. So there were nuclear wars, and basically like all modern society died out, and you have all kinds of motorcycle gangs going around.
And somehow people have gone back to using crossbows. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, they make it a point. Oh, go ahead.
Wanted to say and somehow having being like after a nuclear war, somehow nobody died of radiation sickness.
Yeah, no, they don't talk about that really. They just kind of they just give you a premise in order to move on from there. They don't really even go back to the war or anything.
Well, they kind of do. They allude to it in regard to one of the 4 Hokuto brothers, although none of them are actually related. But Toki, his whole thing is that he, like, there wasn't enough room for everybody in the fallout shelter, so he's like, I'll stay outside. I'm a badass. I'll just deal with it. So he's like coughing and slowly dying like over the course of the series, and even his name Toki, it means time.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's like it's coming. Maybe not now, but it's coming.
But the first like mini boss, like the first like named bad guy, his name is Zeed. He looks like the Mohawk guy from Road
Wes.
Warrior. He looks
There's
like
a lot
Wes.
of Mohawk guys. Actually, this is a very weirdly specific thing, and I doubt you're at this point in the manga, so I'll use the movie to reference it instead.
Sure.
But even this is kind of obscure. Do you remember in the final chase scene in The Road Warrior when Lord Humongous has, like, I don't know what the fuck it is. It's this giant weird spiked thing that he throws like a harpoon and just hits a guy.
Yeah.
That's in Fist of the North Star once.
Yeah, no, like all kinds of, like, even the Great Humongous, like, there are characters in the background that look exactly like him. It's straight up thievery,
like,
to some point.
Isn't there a guy who has this weird mask because his head is constantly falling apart? Say my name.
What, you mean the big muscly guy with like the hockey mask?
No, there is like a guy, there is a guy who always has the line "Say my name."
Jaggy. Yes,
Oh, Jaggy.
in Fist. I thought you were referring to Mad Max, but yeah, in Fist of the North Star, yes, Jaggy. He's a weaselly piece of shit who uses a shotgun, even though he's a Hokuto practitioner. And like the other Hokuto brothers, including the main antagonist of the series, is like, stop using weapons like a little bitch. He's like, no, whatever, they're fine, they work.
But so essentially you find the main character super dehydrated, just looking for water, which is tough to come by in this world. And the Zed gang had gone around destroying some other people, and they find their, like, a big part of their squad, like, exploded from the inside out.
Kenshiro, when he fights you, you're gonna have a bad time.
And they were like, oh, maybe like somebody installed like bombs in them, and like they make it a big point that like complex machinery is not a thing in this world. Like,
and you know what else isn't a thing? Cash.
Yeah,
do
they
you
make a
remember
big thing
episode
about that.
1? Yeah, like a motorcycle. This is an allusion to the Mad Max movie, where like Mad Max just sees like some random desert punks just like killing. Like, no, they almost killed one guy and they were like raping somebody else, and Mad Max is like, whatever, I just want the fucking gasoline. He doesn't I think he beats them up because they were in the way of him getting gas. He just happened to save these people. The guy was like, thank you, sir. Yeah, okay, whatever, I'm here for the gas. But in Fist of the North Star, some motorcycle punks like kill some couple who are running away with a suitcase, and they're like, oh, this ought to be good, what's in the suitcase? And you see like $1 million like dollar bills, and they're like, what? This stuff's worthless. You can't even blow your nose with it, and they just let it blow away in the wind.
Yeah, because they want to make a point that like all niceties of society have gone away. Have they ever confirmed that it takes place in Japan?
Oh crap! I should know this. I know there's a land called Shura in Hokuto no Ken 2, which is kind of weird. I forgot.
Because it's kind of
remember.
Ambiguous. It is a little ambiguous.
You see some collapsed skyscrapers, but that
it could be
anywhere in the world that has skyscrapers.
Exactly. But I know there's a prequel series called Fist of the Blue Sky that takes place in Shanghai. But and that's obviously a real place, but it's supposed to happen before the war.
By the way, you know what I also love, by the way, in Fist of the North Star, is that every bad guy who's the leader of some gang, the regular motorcycle punks are just whatever, but even people that only last one episode, their boss, everybody knows some unique variation of martial arts.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you haven't seen this technique. It's like, what?
It may sound simplistic, but it was like a really cool thing at the time to see something that violent. Like, you literally have a main character that, like, there are fountains of blood and viscera everywhere every time he fights somebody.
And that's our hero. Yeah, it's not the villain. That's it is the villain, but that's our hero.
Yeah, and also the villains are very memorable. They're big pieces of shit. A lot
of Yakuza thugs actually in the video games remind me of Hokuto thugs, because it's just like, what the fuck you say to me? You want to go? I'll kill you over nothing. It's like,
yeah,
okay.
They're just big pieces of shit. They don't some of them don't even have like much of a backstory other than I'm just a big piece of shit. But
it is exceedingly rare to see Hokuto thugs with personalities other than that. I can think of like 3 times. Like, it's super rare.
Yeah, but that is like, the art is super iconic. If you read it, you will almost immediately be drawn to the fact that the perspective on the characters like varies from like depending on what the artist
silly,
wants to
yeah.
show you. So
Yeah,
like
in the anime, Zed's a big guy, but sometimes he's like 10 feet tall for no reason, and you're like, what?
in the
wonder
manga, it varies constantly.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is something that like the Trigger used to play with, like the Studio
What
Trigger.
used to play with?
Studio Trigger.
I have no idea. I don't know.
You never seen
Yeah.
anything by Studio Trigger?
No,
I
no,
have,
no.
but I can't think of them playing with something like that. Like, Trigger did what? Gurren Lagann? Or was that Guy
Gurren
Nuts?
Lagann, Kill la
That's Guy
Kill
Nuts.
recently did Promare, and they kind of have this habit of like people suddenly like intimidate when somebody's intimidating them, like they have the fucking size of a building.
Well, they'll do perspective, but they won't have them, like, drawn in a way that it looks like they're just giant.
Yeah,
It's bizarre.
like I'll give you for instance, like Zed, who is like a nobody.
Well, that's what I was
ultimately.
talking about. Like, Zed's like 1,000 feet tall when Kenshiro knocks him down. You're like, what? How?
Yeah, like he literally cradles a person in his two hands. Like his hands are massive enough to cradle
You know
an
what
entire
it's like? You know what it's
human
like?
body.
It's like King Kong. King Kong changes size constantly
Yeah.
in the black and white King Kong. Zed's like that. Like, it's important that he's scary in this scene, so now he's fucking huge, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely a stylistic choice. It's not because the
Yeah.
artist is bad.
Yeah, no.
It's just it's kind of funny that it's the only thing that I know of that does that.
Again, this
And-
kind of, for some reason, this kind of reminds me of Kill la Kill. You have like
Yeah.
Well, Kill la Kill, I mean, I've seen this kind of thing used in a bunch of different anime, like, as a joke. Like what'd you say to me? And they're, like, drawn goofy and huge, but I don't
No,
remember
like,
Kill la Kill
just-
just having a guy be giant.
You have to watch the first like moment, like when Gamagori kicks down the door, like he's barely fitting through the door, even though he's just a regular.
Yeah, but that was a joke, though. That wasn't like he's just big. That was, like, clearly silly where his head barely fits to the door frame. Like, that was comical. Like, I've seen stuff like that
but
constantly.
I know it's not similar, but this is what it reminds me of.
Yeah, okay, fair enough, yeah.
But yeah, and essentially, you find out that the main character Ken is a practitioner of Hokuto Shinken.
Yes.
Is what it ends up being later on, right?
Well, that's what it ends up being all the time.
Well, it's Hokuto no Ken, but then they change it to Hokuto Shinken.
Well, the series is called Hokuto no Ken, but the art he practices is Hokuto Shinken.
Okay, fair enough. So, and then apparently, like, regular Hokuto no Ken is like the like goofy version of like that the lesser version of Hokuto Shinken, something like that.
Well,
like,
there's
canonically.
there's four styles of Hokuto Shinken, and each of the four brothers has their own variation on it. Like, Toki has a much more, like, responsive style where he'll let you make the first move and he'll keep a particular distance from
It's
his
a
opponents.
reactive.
Yeah, and like Jagi, you don't really get to see too much of his style because he likes using guns and spears and shit, but he'll just use like the sort of Kenshiro style, but he uses like knife hands instead of like fists. Rao just does big giant fuck off punches. So like there's different takes on Hokuto Shinken.
Yeah, and so what he's getting at is the main bad guys in the series. There are 3 of them, right?
Well, if you want to go through the brothers, there's Jagi and there's Rao. Toki's a good guy.
Oh, okay. Toki's a good guy. All right. Well, so anyway, it's Ken's.
There are more bad guys, but they're not all Hokuto practitioners.
Exactly.
A lot of the bad guys are.
Rao's the big bad, right?
Well, he's the ultimate.
Yeah.
And he's not even like evil. He's just the antagonist.
Mm-hmm.
But like there's also, it's not called Fist of the South Star. I forgot what it's called. But there's Hokuto Shinken and then there's Nanto Seiken. And there's like
Southern Cross.
Well, Southern Cross is like Shin style.
Yeah.
But there's like 7 Nanto users and 4 Hokuto users, and like Nanto has sort of a Rao equivalent. Like he is the big bad of the South style, basically, like Thouser. Okay. He's one of the biggest pieces of shit there is in the series.
Yeah,
he's way up there.
He's the Egyptian pyramid guy, right?
Yeah, like he's not even Egyptian, but like yeah, he just has a
he
pyramid.
wants a pyramid. He had a pyramid erected in his image though, or
yeah, having it erected like
yeah.
by like slave children. It's like Jesus Christ, dude,
no, he's
come on.
a big piece of shit. So, but it's just so entertaining. Like you know what's gonna happen. Like it's all magical story writing too.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because like he has a secret style or move that you've never seen before that he knows when he needs to get out of
every
something.
time there's a big boss fight, like time to use that move I never use, and you're like, what? Okay, whatever.
But it's just fun.
Of course,
it's really cool, and it also it doesn't waste a lot of your time. It's real snappy. So like it's all style, but it's a lot of fun. And
it's a lot of style. By the way, one thing I do want to bring up, because you had mentioned at the beginning of this episode how we discovered the anime or the manga or whatever. Mm-hmm. How did you discover it?
So yeah, I was gonna get into that. This happened back in the 80s, and America didn't get a whole lot of exposure early on to this, even though it was a hugely influential manga and then anime after that. So like lots of video games and all kinds of stuff made it to people's homes, and like the anime was a big deal in Japan, but that didn't really come over until kind of later, until like the OVAs really. So
the OVAs are quite good quality, but the thing with them is that they're mostly they're like, I mean, this isn't really going to mean much to you, I don't think, but they're like some of the One Piece movies where they just take a particularly good arc and
Dragon Ball's like that too.
Super abridge it in movie quality.
Oh, Gurren Lagann had that with their two
movies.
Gurren
Lagann. The Gurren Lagann movies were like first half of the series real quick with some embellishments, second half of the series real quick with embellishments. So yeah, like the Hokuto movie, like one of them is like just a Thouser fight because it's so damn good. Stuff like that.
Yeah, so what I was going to say is they're probably the earliest thing to make it to the United States that I can think of off the top of my head is the NES game.
I forgot about that. I was going to say Last Battle on the Genesis, but no, NES.
No, Black Belt made it actually before that in the United States.
That's right, Black Belt. That was the Sega Master System game that we never got.
No,
and we finally got that in Lost Paradise on PS4.
No, we got Black Belt. Black Belt did come to the United States. Yeah,
but we got the actual Hokuto version of it in Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise on PS4,
so
like the Yakuza game.
It's kind of like with Dragon Power, which was a secret Dragon Ball game. It was actually a Dragon Ball game, but they changed to a non-license.
Okay.
Black Belt was a Sega Master System game that came out during the Sega Master System, and was actually one of the more popular titles in United States and in Europe. It was actually a really fun game, but upon what we know now, it is very obviously a reskinned Fist of the North Star game.
And the thing with that is, by the way, you would have to know that it's a reskin, because some of the bosses you just aren't gonna know how to beat in some cases.
Yeah.
Like the first 4 goons you go
like
through
Mr.
are basic. Yeah, I was gonna mention. Yeah, like they're basically like they're not bosses. They're like
puzzle
tougher
bosses.
Thugs.
Yeah,
but like you fight like Club, Spade, Diamond, and Heart. But when you get to Heart, like he seems to have infinite health, and what you're supposed to do is just crouch and like punch him in the stomach 100 times, and he goes down immediately.
The idea is that this anime and manga was so goddamn popular at the time that everybody knew how these characters died.
If you knew how Kenshiro beat Mr. Hart, then you're like, oh, I got it. But if you're playing Black Belt, like, you don't know.
No.
Like, same goes when you fight Toki. Where, like I was saying, when you advance on him, he'll retreat, and when you retreat, he advances, and he takes very carefully aimed shots. Like, you're not used to an NES game functioning like that. Because in Kung Fu, like, you could figure that shit out real quick, but this is way harder.
The way that he dies, like, in Black Belt, you're like, what? Like, what is that? But it's like, if you had seen Fist of the North Star, it makes total sense.
I actually never could beat him in the Master System. How does he die in that?
Like you, I think you have to hit him a specific combination of ways, and then he, points up and goes, I will never die, and then like, turns
Oh, that's
into.
not going to be Toki. That's going to be Rao.
Oh, Rao. Okay, that's Rao, and then he turns
Yeah, that'll be
into
like the
like
final
concrete,
boss.
right, or something, or whatever. Anyway,
Kind of, sort of.
Whatever.
But yeah, he does like he does the fist of the sky. Like, yes, I
Yeah.
am the badass.
Yeah. So, anyway, I think the very first thing that had Fist of the North Star branding was the NES game, and it is utter trash. It's a really,
it's a
really,
shame.
really bad game. I do not recommend it one bit. Play Black Belt with a guide, or the Yakuza Fist of the North
Fist of the North
Star
Star Lost
game.
Paradise. You have to unlock it in the arcade, but
Go
you
back
can
and
do
play it. Yeah. The Genesis also got Last Battle, which is the sequel to that. But also
And that's a
reskinned.
beat 'em up. It's
Yeah.
straight beat 'em up where you just punch a guy and they explode or like fly off the screen and you're like, what? But
Yeah,
it does make
and
sense.
in Black Belt, you're wondering why people are exploding. You're like, wow, this guy punches really hard.
And he does too. Because I didn't know that we got NES Fist of the North Star. The
you
first
have
Fist
to
of the North
fight
Star
the tank?
game. What was it?
Do you have to fight a tank some point?
I don't think
think
you have
so.
to fight a tank. Yeah, I don't think so.
The only like the first Fist of the North Star game I was aware of that was actually called Fist of the North Star was the like the Warrior style game on like PS3 and 360.
Yeah, I was actually going to say my first introduction to Fist of the North Star was actually there was an early Game Boy fighting game. A one-on-one
God.
fighting game called Fist of the North Star, and my friend had it, and that's how I was first exposed to it. But I would always kind of wonder what the hell it was, because like it had all these characters in it, and I knew they were a reference to something, but like we had no way of viewing it. So it was just one of those things. It's just like, and it was an odd game, and it was one of those odd like one-on-one fighting games that also didn't have like it wasn't a downport of anything. It was a unique Game Boy game. So it was really an odd game, and I was drawn to it because of its oddness.
Like the first Fist of the North Star game I think I ever actually interacted with myself was Mr. Ryu had this. It was the Japan only import, but like Mr. Ryu has a Japanese PS2, just so you can play stuff like this. But he had the Arxis Works, like the Guilty Gear people, the Fist of the North Star fighting game.
Yeah,
and I didn't know who anybody was, but it was freaking cool. I eventually bought it myself.
Yeah, I bought that during college as well.
I remember I played a little bit of it with you at your dorm in college.
Yeah, in the late 2000s, probably around like 2008 or so. And
it would have been 8 or 9.
Yeah, 2008 or 9, and I had a blast with that. It has beautiful animation, just like any other Arxis game.
Of course.
It is not the most balanced fighting game.
No, it's broken as shit. Yeah,
but I mean, it's kind of.
Yeah, you're not playing it competitively anyway. Whatever.
Also, if you were lucky enough to see this in one of your local arcades, there was a game called Punch Mania, which is like a spin-off of like the DDR B-Money games. It's a Fist of the North Star game, but it doesn't tell you that it is, because like all the characters that you go up against are very clearly Fist of the North Star bad guys, but they have targets pop up, and you're supposed to punch them, like literally punch them.
Like you, the person.
Yeah. And so like there's all kinds of stuff like this. When we were growing up, there was a lot of stuff that like disseminated to us, but we didn't quite know what it was until later. And
actually, I was gonna say my first experience with. Like, I didn't read the manga until forever, but my first experience with the anime was actually kind of ironic, because, like, our friend Perry, I think he saw a clip of it from somewhere, and the animation looks pretty janky, especially in the early episodes.
Oh, yeah.
And he wanted to watch the series, like, as a laugh. He thought it was going to be, something
it's
fun.
Not bad.
Yeah, no, well, it's, if you look at it now, compared to what you're used to, it's like, oh. But, like, he thought it was going to be, like, just a fun anime to like riff on as we were watching it, and after we got like a couple episodes in, we're like, this is actually pretty good, and we watched all of it, like Hokuto no Ken and Hokuto no Ken 2. Like, this is legitimately good.
Yeah. How did you first experience it over in Hungary?
My friend gave me a
Dracologist.
link of the sort of most of the highlight. Gave a highlight reel of the
Sure.
franchise of it.
That's a good way too. Yeah.
Yeah, because the anime is
A lot of
like
screaming and going, the face of the North Star.
Yup.
yeah, and
And shoo.
If I have to ask, I didn't never see any of the franchise, but I did see Rikio, so does that count?
Rikio's similar. It's in there.
yeah.
Which was first?
Oh, definitely Fist of the North Star.
Yeah, a lot of things try to be Fist of the North Star. What's funny though is that Rikio, to a degree, inspired.
It started
at
in
least-
'83, so it's pretty early.
But Rikio inspired at least one Street Fighter character, M. Bison. Or I should say what America knows as M. Bison. The final boss of Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
What Japan calls Dictator. Or what Japan calls Balrog. What fighting game fans call Dictator, so there's no ambiguity. There's a guy called Washizaki who is just M. Bison with a katana. Like, he is just M. Bison. Like, because you know how Street Fighter and King of Fighters just very heavily inspire their characters from, like, JoJo and stuff? Well, M. Bison's from Rikio, of all places.
Yeah. So, one thing that I was going to point out, not a whole lot of people know about this, but one of the first things that America did get that was branded Fist of the North Star was the live-action theatrical movie.
Oh, yeah. That was real good.
1996, starring... this was an American production, starring Gary Daniels and Chris Penn of Reservoir Dogs fame, brother of Sean Penn. He was nice guy Eddie in Reservoir Dogs. That's probably his most prominent role. But Chris Penn was a lot of other stuff. But it apparently also this is a neat trivia bit. It is literally, not ironically, literally John Cena's favorite movie from when he was a kid.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Which
he
movie?
loves it. What's up?
Which movie we're talking about?
Fist of the
North
North Star.
the
Fist of the
live-action American movie.
Yeah, so it is not very good.
Yeah, I see what they try. It's one of those like I see what they did there
Malcolm
kind of movies,
McDowell
but it's not very good.
Is in it. Jesus.
Who is it?
Malcolm McDowell.
What?
Yeah,
Who's
as
he?
Ryu Ken.
What?
Yeah,
Ryu? Do you know who Ryu Ken is?
I have no idea who Ryu Ken is.
Kenshiro's master, long white
really?
beard.
Really?
Yeah, he's like a super
He's like
old
a Pai
guy.
Mei kind of guy, right?
No, he's not like
He's a kung fu master.
the master who abuses you, but yeah, he's like
Yeah.
this. Yeah, he's the super old, really long white beard.
Clint
you must learn
Howard
the
is in this
ways.
movie. Jesus Christ.
Who's he?
Clint Howard, Ron Howard's brother.
No, I know who Clint Howard is. Who is he in the movie?
Stalin.
I don't remember that name.
What?
Yeah.
Wait,
I don't know.
what?
Uh, There's all kinds
Is
of
it
people.
Starlin?
Yeah, like
It's
Joseph
it's not the
Stalin.
historical figure,
Yeah,
but
I gotta Dante
look this
Basco
up.
as Bot.
I forgot that Bot was in that movie. Yeah, Bot's like the little boy, the kid.
Yeah, exactly. Melvin Van Peebles as Asher, which is probably Souther.
When
if had to
I
guess.
typed in Fist of the North Star Stalin, and all I get is the live action movie. I don't even know if he was in
Yeah,
the
he's
source
probably
material.
a unique character.
Why does he have to have a unique character? There's like 1,000 one-off characters from the actual
You gotta
source
have
material.
Clint Howard in there, man. Big Van Vader as Goliath, who was a WWE or WCW.
If they're gonna have like a big burly wrestler, they should have had him do Devil Rebirth, even though that guy's like a skyscraper.
Yeah. So anyway, there have been plenty of really good games since then. There is a warrior style game which you alluded to. Two
There's
of them. Which was during the 360 PS3 era.
And by the way, there's a
heard
jet.
that recently was not so good.
What was it?
That the recent Fist of the North Star Warrior style game was not so good.
I
I don't even know what that is because I can only think of two, and they were both on like the PS3 and 360. Like They were both fine. I don't know if there's a more recent one.
Yeah, the second one is definitely, like, if you're going to buy one, just buy the second one because it encompasses all of the content of the first game,
Yes,
but better.
and the first one's also much slower paced than you may be expecting. But what I was also going to mention is that there is a Japanese-only PS1 game that does a surprisingly good job of going through the whole first series. It looks better than it has a right to, and it even covers some like minor bad guys that you wouldn't think they would bother with, which I found was amusing.
Yeah, and probably the most recent,
The most recent one has to be the Yakuza game with Lost Paradise.
Lost Paradise, which was a PS4 game by the Yakuza people, and is basically a Yakuza game, but with a Fist of the North Star skin, which is pretty cool.
Kenshiro. Well, speaking of skins, I'll get there. But Kenshiro is voiced by the guy who does Kiryu, the main character of the Yakuza series, and there actually is a Kiryu skin. You could literally play as Kiryu if you want to. Also, the guy who voices Majima does Jagi, which that's the perfect voice for him, that like douchebag voice. It's too bad Jagi isn't in the game very much because he's not in the main series very much, but like that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So I just kind of wanted to give some love to this series. If you're going to get into it, I would definitely recommend the PS4 game is probably one of the best entry points because especially since it's a good game and it's a lot of fun.
And Warriors 2, like Fist of the North Star, Ken's Rage 2, it's a really
which is
bad
kind
title.
of funny.
Yeah, but that's a really good one to do. It, like you said, it covers the whole series.
Now, the entire anime is now extremely accessible. Several streaming services have the entire run on there.
That's great.
With subtitles, so in a good form, or you can get it dubbed. Either or. I think Amazon Prime and Hulu have it.
And there's also a movie, which is like, I don't mean the OVAs, I mean like Fist of the North Star, the movie, like the anime movie. It covers the whole series 1, but it obviously very heavily abridges things.
Sure.
I think one of the bigger bad guys is like the boss of the Kiba clan, who was a big deal in his time, but like whatever. It's kind of funny.
He's small potatoes by the time you get to the end of it, right?
He captured Ray's sister. All right, we got to get that taken care of, but okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, I just wanted to throw that out there. You can watch the anime very easily. However, this is very disappointing. It is difficult to experience the manga. The manga only ever had 2 incomplete runs in English officially, which is a really big surprise considering its influence and also the amount of Fist of the North Star fans that exist nowadays.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you know how when the JoJo anime hit like Crunchyroll and stuff, all of a sudden we got the manga? Like, I was kind of hoping that would happen when Lost Paradise came out, because it's like, here, look, a new Fist of the North Star game, and it kind of sort of covers the series.
Yeah.
Like, now's a good time?
Yeah, so, like, I have 4 out of the 8 volumes that came to the United States when they were printing those in these, like, massive volumes. They're, like, by Gastoon Entertainment, which is a defunct label. They went defunct during the publication of it, so it's really hard to find the latter 4 volumes of it. And they of course never finished it, so it's not like it's super worth it to get them all. And I think right now there is a way to get it in English, but it's extremely prohibitive. There is a thing that is coming out in Japan that is an ebook reader for that they did like a Kickstarter for. That you could buy several anime series in Japanese and English when you do it. When you get like a whole pack on a card that has like all of the manga of a particular series. But like you have to buy the e-reader, which is a couple $100, and I think it's like at least $200 just for all of Fist of the North Star. It's like it's completely ridiculous, and it's all on a little SD card. So. Probably the most accessible thing, unfortunately, is scanlations. Fan
Yeah.
translated manga. And it's kind of unfortunate that you have to resort to that, but that scene is always weird because there's websites are always getting shut down. So,
Yep.
you know, I can't even find a place to download it because Fist of the North Star is not exactly a hot property. Um, so amongst manga readers, of course, the hot new anime is going to be much easier to find, or the hot new manga. But it's just one of those things. So I fortunately was able to find a way to it, but it's one of those things. But I definitely recommend reading the manga. It probably has the best experience overall because
Yeah, the
there's
art is
no.
just gorgeous.
Yeah, the art is great, and like I said, it's unique. It has that perspective change that
Yeah, and
only
there's no like janky animation.
yeah. There's no janky animation, and there's not a whole lot of filler. Like you could even say that all of Fist of the North Star 2 is filler. Like you could live without it,
Well,
really.
it's a sequel, but a lot of it does kind of feel redundant. It really does.
Yeah.
By the way, one thing I should point out. I mean, like we got to get to comments in the question shortly, but one thing I do want to point out is that the PS2 game God Hand is kind of sort
Goofy
of
Fist of the
a
North Star.
comedic take.
Yeah.
It has a surprising amount of nods to Fist of the North Star. I mean, obviously it's a reference to it, but a surprising amount of like very specific nods. Like, the big metal baseball bat looking thing that's actually a spiked club. A bunch of Hokuto thugs use that. You just find those every once in a while. The way Elvis weirdly slides toward you sometimes, that's like what Bowser does in the anime. There's a lot of little specific things that they cover. Even like that one civilian you have to save when thugs are throwing like big heavy metal rings at him. That's a take on an episode of Fist of the North Star where they're throwing like bladed rings, basically doing ring toss, where if they miss, they'll probably kill you. It's pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
This God Hand is funny. God Hand is funny.
It's a freaking. It even starts off with him like staggering into town and going water, but it's like a stupid, goofy take of that line.
Yeah. Do you have any other nods that you wanted to throw out there, Dracologist, before we moved on to fan stuff here?
Thinking on like what kind of related to media I met, but I didn't see much.
The only thing I could think of,
Like,
real
again,
quick, is in Guilty Gear, like Faust, the goofy character. I think he has like a
He
move.
just got his own game recently.
Yeah, it's absurd. But I think he has a move where when he like powers up to like I forgot which game it was. It's not the new one, but one of the moves at one of the points in maybe one of the PS2 games or something, he does a thing where he like tears open his shirt and you could see like the Big Dipper like carved on his chest just as a reference. It's like what?
anyway, like
So
again, Hulk the Slayer, the Mad Max movies, and possibly like the Rikio. This is all.
Yeah, Rikio's kind of in there. It makes sense.
I think it was more leveled. And actually, like people didn't just explode. Like it was believable that.
It was ultra violent, but not exploding. He would like tear your arm off or cut into your body or something.
I do remember two things. Three. That one of the first guy gets his jaw punched off. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was vicious.
One guy gets like punched in the side so hard that his intestine burst out from his side.
Yup.
And the last one was when he punches the what was it? What would you call it? Like sort of the prison. Who leads the prison?
The warden.
Warden. Like he punches the warden's head so that his skull plate completely collapses. But it wasn't gory. It was just like, ouch.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
You know what I like was the very beginning of Rikio, where they run through the metal detector and they see like he's got 5 bullets in his chest. Like, why do you still have those? Why didn't you get them removed? And just he looks to him like, souvenirs. It's like, get the hell out of here.
He later like bursts them out of his muscles, doesn't he? Like to kill people with them.
Nope.
I forgot about that.
Not at all.
Oh, I thought that
although
was
the bullets actually come into the. What?
I'm not sure how much is related, but any of you know Bucky?
I know of it, and that's also very ultra violent.
I don't know if it's ultra violent. Like
No, it's fucking
yeah, wait,
nasty.
no, it is fucking. Wait a minute, it is. It is one of those.
Look up any clip of the new Baki. It's fucking brutal.
I need to check that out.
As in, like, I have to look away sometimes. Like, oh, jeez. But no, with Rikio, the bullets factor into something not really like part of the plot, but they come back to the bullets later. But there's this one part where Rikio's fighting some guy who's an expert with like a katana, and he quickly just lashes his sword at Ricky a couple times and like fishes the bullets out. This is one of those things I like about the really classic like 80s mangas where they'll just go into full bullshit territory where it's like even an expert surgeon couldn't have got those bullets out, but he just did it very easily with his sword. It's like, fuck off. like Baki did that with a guy, like a super criminal who was trapped behind this like impenetrable glass, and it's like, don't worry, even like a surface-to-air missile couldn't penetrate this glass, and you know that in 5 minutes this guy's gonna break out of it. It's like, oh come on, like it's stuff like that. It's just so dumb.
And he basically has like this ability to just pull his hand up, like place his hands on something, pulls it away, and basically creates such a powerful vacuum in such a second that it breaks everything. Like he can...
yeah, it's inane. Yeah,
but yeah, like that. I think one of my favorite characters in that series was Oliver Biscuit.
That I don't know, because I know very little of Baki. I just know that it's fucking nasty.
He's like this Cuban guy who's the size of a fucking building, he's an absolute precious. Like he's very, very nice. He's absolute merciless when fight comes to fighting, but he's just nice and fun.
Nice. But anyway, at this point, we should probably move on to fan input here. So we have some comments, some of which were made by Dracologist himself. So I'll do those first. So yeah, Dracologist, you were mentioning the Doom Eternal snafu with the sound. So you had said it's a shame that Bethesda did that. Mick is a really nice lad. He streams games and his videos on his channel with how-to tutorials for music mixing and such. And then, I know, the Occult 9 anime. That one girl has some massive zonkers, but an odd story. It sounds par for the course for that.
Yeah, and the story was interesting, though. But, yeah.
Yeah, and you had also said, like we were talking about stuff that like other people have covered, you said, my mother absorbed Charmed episodes. And I know Bill Burr was once talking about Suga, and Vice knows demo scene. Holy moly, the stuff I could tell you about that. I've never seen anyone. The stuff I could tell you about that. And then you said, I've never seen anyone like Star Trek Picard. Xenobots are literally muscle and skin tissue, and a very weird term. While not in cookbooks, I've seen a lot of recipes on YouTube, of all things. When they just casually pull out ingredients you can't find in a 20-kilometer radius, it kind of puts me off. Yeah, a lot of reality shows do that too. Like, all you need is this, and it's like, where do I get that?
Yeah, like I love to make these recipes. It's sad that I can't get like soy sauce from 50 billion miles from here.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
So then we have a few other comments here. Fakafon says, I could just imagine one of the JoJos being like Joel Johnson. That'd be pretty funny. Also,
you know what I thought of after we were speaking about it?
Yeah.
I didn't realize this because I just don't think this way without making myself think this way, but like the third JoJo, Jotaro, like it even makes more sense in Japanese because it's Kujo Jotaro. Because that's how you would say
it's
his name.
JoJo.
So you would literally have JoJo in the middle there.
That's true.
Yeah.
I do know that there was like some sort of word joke about how like Jesus Christ was like Jesus, the son of Joseph. With everyone like, he's a JoJo.
Oh jeez. All right.
Someone wrote like the big like is a messy fucking Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I've seen like that like picture of like that one statue of Korean Jesus where he's super muscly. And Fakafon also says, General Scales from Star Fox Adventure, the most anticlimactic build-up in the world. Yeah.
Scales.
He was awesome, but that was an anticlimax and a half. School
I bet
Filmer
he weighs
says,
a lot.
I bet he has scales because he's a reptile. So School Filmer says, I did try more recipes from the 2 books after I posted that question. Nutella brownies using only a whole jar of Nutella, some flour and 2 eggs, and peanut butter cookies using just 3 ingredients. They turned out pretty well.
Ooh.
And also a no-bake Oreo cake and some chocolate-filled cookie cupcakes. That sounds
delicious.
Sounds not nice. I've seen similar recipes, by the way. Like,
nice.
Few ingredients.
Yeah, and Living Corpse says, Mortal Kombat Conquest ends with Shao Kahn winning? Not sure if that's the darkest timeline, since he also won in the original timeline during Armageddon. Sure, Dark Raiden sends a message back in time to normal past Raiden to prevent that, but still, he got killed after sensing it. Yeah, but Conquest, the TV series, is just fucking over. By the way, here's a funny thing. Living Corpse spelled Conquest with a K, because Mortal Kombat spells everything with a K. But here's a weird thing. The TV show spelled Conquest with a C, like the actual word. What the hell, man? Why would they do that?
I do remember that it had absolute rave music for its sound.
The music wasn't bad, but but Living Corpse spelled it what should be the correct way, and the TV show just didn't do that.
It had the most badass Shang Tsung in the entire video game.
That Shang Tsung was all right. Yeah,
he was evil, but he had a sort of chill side, and he was also buff like hell.
Yeah. And then finally, Connor says, I can't remember ever specifically preparing a dish from a book or movie, except for once. There's a pretty bad 90s Schwarzenegger movie called End of Days.
Oh, yeah.
Near the beginning, he makes a breakfast smoothie out of all sorts of random ingredients. Coffee, leftover Chinese takeout, slice of bread he finds on the floor. I, of course, assume that this must be why Arnold looked the way he did, and made my own version of the smoothie using random things I found in the kitchen. It was pretty disgusting.
Yep.
Also, after several hours had passed and I wasn't incredibly buff, I figured I wasn't going to try it again the following day. It's a wise decision. I never saw all of End of Days. I've only seen pieces of it.
End of Days was the movie with the devil ones, that specific girl.
He fights the devil, yeah.
Yeah, it was the devil,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
With a shotgun, somehow.
I remember being shocked because the Song of Nephilim is in that movie, which sounds like ooh, and I had heard that from Xenosaga before. So is the Song of Nephilim actually a thing? Because I was like, both of these have that? What the fuck? End of Days? That was the weirdest realization.
Isn't that the song of Diasira?
I don't remember. And then finally, we have our question from Living Corpse. I've been wondering, I know game developers are learning how to make games for quantum computers. Is it possible to make quantum game systems and quantum laptops? Or is their size too much of a limitation and future consumers will need at least a desktop with a big-ass rig? I mean, who knows? I don't know quantum computers, so there's no way I'm going to have a definitive answer, but the best I can give you is computers had to be the size of a room back in the 70s, and now they literally fit in your hand, so who knows?
Well, quantum computers are like mainframes used to be, literally, currently.
Yeah.
They are gigantic, and they require a sub-zero cooling system in order to function, because they run so hot that they need that.
Well,
can't you just get a bunch of guys in the room and just have them keep blowing on it?
Wait. Quantum computers shouldn't be the thing that they don't generate heat.
Then you need to tell me why I did a research project and they told me that they need supercoolant in order to...
I thought the whole thing is that it is photon based, not electron based.
Well, they must... the other parts of the computer must create massive amounts of heat.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know the physics behind it, but I tried to understand it because I was doing a project on it, but it's really heavy duty physics. In fact, quantum physics is one of those things that they say if you say you understand quantum physics, then you don't understand,
or you don't.
Quantum physics. You are.
Well, I know that is the slit experiment, and that explains a lot.
Yeah.
Well, it's like that famous philosopher. I forgot which philosopher said this, but like the truly wise man knows that he knows nothing.
That's Socrates.
It was Socrates.
Yeah.
It's like that for the quantum computer, or for quantum physics. It's like you think you kind of have an idea, but then you realize like, nah. This shit's weird.
I mean,
it calculates itself out of existence.
Yeah. When I did a project on it, I was still in my MBA program at the time, and that was maybe about 5 years ago. So at 5 years ago, there were 10 known quantum computers in the entire world, and there probably aren't many more because they are extremely expensive, and they are also highly watched, or you could even say regulated, not officially, but they are highly watched by the United States government because they want to know exactly who has one, what they're doing with it, and why.
Do you think
for
they could
good
run
reasons?
Doom?
What's that?
Do you think they could run Doom?
No.
That's the line. Like a fucking like ATM can run Doom, but a quantum computer, like, nah, man.
No. They could probably get it running on a Gamecom.
I mean, if you can get a fucking ATM to do it, then why not?
Yeah, they should get it on Virtual Boy. That would be sweet.
I've seen people make run Doom on like the chipset of a Frigid.
Yeah, my favorite is still like the MacBook Pro with like the screen buttons and like the long button placed Doom.
I think my favorite was like on a single key of a keyboard.
Yeah.
It's like a super tiny screen.
Exactly. I love that shit. I because it's so goddamn impractical, but they made it happen.
Didn't you say there was some like? Well, didn't you say there was some like? Or maybe this is the thing you were mentioning, like the long thin bar.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, where you can play it, but you can't see what the hell you're doing. It doesn't matter.
It's just all stretched out and morphed, but it
looks
works.
awful.
They got it running on an oscilloscope at one point.
I've seen Quake run.
Oh no, it was Quake. Yeah, you're right. It was Quake.
Very nice.
Doom doesn't have polygons, so it's very hard to run it.
But it's there.
But can they run it in a Vectrex?
We shall see. I just got my flash cart. We have
for a Vectrex. That's so good.
Yeah, I can't wait to
legitimately
experience that. I'm sure there's some demo scene shit on there as well. So I'm excited to try that out with you once the quarantine's lifted, whenever that happens. All right, guys, do you have any more comments on this one?
Not even a quantum of a comment.
Not
I'm gonna stop recording and wait for a moment, and then start making a trailer. So I'll have a quantum of solace.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just wrap things up because Lotus Prince is referencing bad 007 movies now.
how many quanta do you have?
All right. That is the show for this week. We want to thank all of our fans, including Blofeld, who contributed questions.
Blofeld.
He was his brother, don't you remember? Please remember to keep us supplied with awesome topics.
What the fuck? I mean, wrong movie, but that really was some bullshit.
Spectre was the sequel to Quantum of Solace, basically.
Yes.
Honestly, that sounds like a bad soap opera twist.
It's like
because it was.
They needed to add a twist to Bond that never needed to happen.
You don't need that, yeah. Although I will say Dave Bautista kicked ass.
Well, no. Like there are certain scenes in that movie that are great, but the end is bad.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Especially considering that Skyfall is one of the best, and that was the one.
And Christoph Waltz is fucking great too.
Great. I bet you they're gonna retcon that brother bullshit right out in the next one with Rami Malek.
No, you know what they're gonna do in the next one? They're gonna do exactly what they did in the older Bond movies, where it's like, you know how there was that spat between the Bond movies, but the person who had the rights specifically
drop them down a smokestack.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah, they're gonna pick up Christoph Waltz. No, they're gonna pick up Blofeld, but you won't see Christoph Waltz's face. You can't see it, and he's like, "Mr. Bond," and they drop him in a fucking smokestack, and that's the opening scene of the movie. And then the rest of the movie has nothing to do with that.
The biggest reoccurring bad guy in Bond history. By
and if you didn't know the history, that led to that,
you'd be like, "What?"
It's like that. What?
That's how they ended that.
The opening scene so unceremoniously. What?
He just picks him up and drops him in a smokestack and gets rid of him.
Fuck you. And now for our movie. What?
So
That's
stupid.
shocking. Imagine seeing that in theaters. Like, that's mind-blowing.
What's really funny is that was the first Blofeld movie I saw, and I thought it was a joke.
Oh.
I thought it was like a running joke that they because he's the inspiration for Dr. Evil, so I thought it was like maybe a running joke that Bond had, but no, they just destroyed him unceremoniously on screen in the first 5 minutes.
Oof.
But anyway, that is the show for this week. We want to thank our fans, seriously, who contributed questions. We want to please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own via the YouTube and Soundcloud pages. You guys have been killing it lately. Thank you so much for contributing. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesdays for another episode of our sister podcast, Reactive Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on pretty much everything.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or getting conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And you can find me on Skype, on Steam, and on Discord as the Dracologist.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you next time on Tuesday.
Until next time, everyone.
Evening.